Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming, and welcome to Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. We were lucky enough to get slightly early access, which greatly helps our coverage, so a big thank you to Maximum for that. But after playing for a little while, I found a pile of things that would be fantastic to know a little sooner, perhaps as you go into the game fresh. There is actually a lot of mechanics that they will tell you about if you stumble into them, but you could entirely miss them, and a lot of experimentation that we've done to learn what you don't need to. Overall, I've kept this as spoiler-free as possible, so you don't need to worry about that. But with that said, let's just get into the tips. First up, we're going to talk about trading, because there's two main types. The first trading you find is tied to spare parts, which are found all over Pandora. Usually you find them when dealing with the RDA, aka human enemies. Through combat looting or exploration around their bases, you gather spare parts often enough. Usually I find them in the yellow boxes around wherever you're finding the RDA. These spare parts become currency for trading, as well as materials for crafting too. They're pretty valuable. At the first hub you find, the HQ, you meet with two traders. One's for like armor, one's for weapons, in that main room. Raj will be introduced to you directly for armor, but across the room you got the other vendor. These guys sell weapons of both kinds, bows, guns, but also the important upgrades like better strings for your bow. So very important, these modding things, whether it's armor mod for each piece, say your chest, arms and waist, or your weapons, these mods provide big passive bonuses. Even the basic ones give you big damage resistance options, something impactful like extra range to your SID hacking device, which we'll talk about in a moment. And when it comes to equipment itself, yeah, you're getting better raw defense with higher quality armor, sure, but it is the passives on the equipment that really hits. For example, this chest piece provides increased clan favor from whatever activities and quests you're doing. They provide this variety of passive benefits to help you get a bit more out of whatever it is you're currently working on. You just swap your clothes on and off based on what content you're about to do. And you can mod basically everything you're using, from every weapon in multiple ways to every armor piece. So make sure you're equipping mods whenever you find them or buy them, and check what's relevant to you in trading, so swap them around. Speaking of trading, there's that other kind I mentioned, clan favor, a different kind of currency to also unlock rewards, items and recipes. The recipes seem insane, leading to really good items for say combat and really strong passive skills, all through crafting once you have the recipe unlocked. Because you've got to craft these recipes though, you will need to go and hunt plants and animals and get things in the right higher quality to make these at a crafting station. So hunt and gather aggressively whenever you can and scan everything, because then you'll know where to find it in the future. Clan favor though is spent with the local clans depending on the region and area you're in. You increase how much favor you've got by helping them, working with them on missions and side stuff, but you could also go to their donation bag found somewhere within the hub and help them stock up on whatever it is they're currently lacking. In exchange, you trade using your favor instead of say spare parts. And like I said, there's some really good rewards for this. Depending on the clan, they'll have different focuses for those rewards. And while we're thinking about a clan base, let's mention stashes. In the game, you can find these special bags known as stashes. The first one you find is in a basket right below that entry hub, the HQ, down in the cave below. The story has you meet your friends down there, and it's just casually right next to them, where you can also find a changing station down here. Stashes hold up to 200 items total, and with the amount of gathering, trading, rewards, and so on, you might actually end up making good use of that to keep your inventory clean. I would suggest to a new player, it might be wise to build up a good stock of different plants and animal parts, to have more to work with for cooking and crafting. And so it might be a lot cleaner to store these mats and so on in a stash. Then you can use these at the various crafting stations, cooking stations, and otherwise at this hub, or actually any main hub. What I mean by that is stashes very kindly hold their 200 items universally, meaning a stash in one base is actually the same stash you access in another. You don't have to go all the way back to any specific stash to get whatever you put in that bag specifically. They're all actually connected somehow, so yay video games. So be aware of them if you need them. Speaking about that changing station, you can also find those in main hubs too. Through missions, side quests, and general open world content, you'll find new cosmetics. That's a nice relief since, that starting character creator had very basic options. The first thing I unlocked was a new war paint to try and a new color to that, so it's only a minor thing to note, but one that I felt I should mention. Moving on to some details with crafting and specifically cooking though, recipes are going to be very helpful in this game. They allow you to be aware of something you can make and exactly what you need to make it without having to experiment and waste materials. So a neat trick to find recipes without, trading or working hard to get them is to randomly find friendly Navi in the wild. They'll even help you find them if you go near them by calling out to you, or maybe you'll hear them mid-conversation or something. For example, I found a gatherer who rewarded me for speaking with her with a recipe for a meal. That meal rewarded me with blast resistance, and that can save me the resources to mess around to find that buff. I then found a hunter who gave me a superior meat from a kill they made, so a great resource to cook for extra duration, and then later a fisherman who gave me a free fish. So overall, speaking with these random Navi in the wild is very worth it, and the recipes can be fantastic, especially starting out because the buffs from food is really impactful. There's options like increased ambush damage, damage resistance from RDA and beasts, and the blast resistance, but most important to me was the raw damage increase. While you can indeed try any random combo to hopefully make a meal that's good, and you should if you have spare resources to test, but specifically, cooking any lean meat will provide you with a hefty damage buff just straight up, and it's one of the best early meals for that purpose. The quality of the food also affects how long the buff actually lasts, so hunting cleanly matters. Humanely killing without going crazy with the arrows, trying to kill the prey in one or maybe a few shots of your bow. That's because if you use your gun, you spoil the meat entirely. You can use your Navi sense to reveal their weak spots to hopefully kill them in one hit, and you can improve weak spot damage in the hunter skill tree. In any case, during cooking, the first ingredient seems to choose the buff effect you're going to get, and the second ingredient's more about increasing the duration as a sort of filler food. So the order you choose matters, and if you want damage buff, you need to make sure the first ingredient in the cooking is the lean meat. I found these buffs to be very impactful, and they only get better when you invest in the maker skill tree, resulting in longer buffs, the potential to make multiple meals in one go, gathering the stuff becomes easier and more efficient. But yeah, that's cooking. It's actually quite simple, but you have to experiment before you learn these things. Now, I mentioned the skill tree a couple times, so let's mention that. You got 5 main options, but you start out with 4. Survivor makes you more tanky and have more healing options. Warrior increases your raw damage in many ways and helps you push the power of specific weapon types. The Hunter is ideal for stealth and burst gameplay, very impactful to your hunting, but also helpful in proper combat too. You can make your vital spot damage stronger. And then finally, there's the Maker, which has one perk I think is definitely worth getting early. That's the Scavenging Expert talent, because it basically means you get more spare parts in your normal gameplay, causing a chance to spawn spare parts whenever you're looting AMPs. As I said at the start, spare parts are important, used in both crafting and trading in big numbers. The more you have sooner, the better it'll be, so I would recommend this talent early if possible. Overall though, I'd also recommend you get at least the first talent in each skill tree, since it'll only cost 1 skill point, and those first passives are all quite impactful. On the other hand, just below that, there's the ancestral talents, which are unlocked in a different but pretty clear way that I probably don't need to explain. The early main mission forces you to get the first one, which is double jump, and then the remaining 4 are marked very clearly on your map for you. Outside of that inner circle of powers though, is an outer circle of even more special powers, so it will progress that starting point. Moving on, let's talk about combat hacking, using that special scanner they give you, SID. Basically, all you need to do is get within line of sight and correct distance of, say, a mech or machine, and aim SID and just use it. You'll need to complete a little mini game to bring the circles together. Then you'll pull up this menu where you need to find the quickest route to the end within the time limit. This then lets you choose to engage the hack right away or delay it and store up to 5 hacks at once to begin with. By using the hack on a mech or an AMD, you can stun it, allowing you to calmly walk up in front of them, aim at their vital or maybe the human exposed within, and destroy them. So you can stack these all the way up to 5 at once from stealth, engaging all the hacks at once and just cleaning house while they're stunned. If you unlock the ancestral power Eject, you'll also unlock the instant kill on stunned enemies, which is very good on the dangerous ones. Just walk up to a stunned mech and use melee, and it'll instantly rip them out and take them out. You can stun mechs using your SID, but also by attacking certain weak points that cause stuns. There are actually ways to increase SID's range and effectiveness too, so it becomes a very deadly tool very quick, and I would recommend you don't ignore it for combat. Next up, we have our final main topic with different tips, which is exploration. Let's start with the awesome mist bloom plants. There's a bunch of useful plants you can use, like the obvious bounce ones, but these are pretty subtle, the mist bloom. Basically, you find these blue and purple plants that are spewing out a light blue mist, and if you step into these, they give you a temporary buff to enhance your movement and jumping ability, which is great for traversal. You'll find them all over the place in fields and on the natural bridges, the big vines, anywhere you're probably going to move a long distance or climb a platform. They make doing all that stuff so much faster, and if you chain a bunch of them together, you get pretty quick. You can see that you're juiced up by this like texture that's over your character. It's only a shame you can't seem to gather these plants for, say, an awesome food movement buff or something, but they're very useful whenever they're around, so run through them. But speaking of exploration, there is some seriously good stuff to find out there, like the hidden totems of your clan. As you travel and play normally, you get these strange markers on your screen, a sort of purple line pointing in a direction. It's actually pointing you to look towards something, so when you aim the correct way, it forms a complete purple circle. that is the direction you need to go to find an interesting hidden event. That could be a rare totem of the Sarentu clan. Upon interaction with these totems, you'll be challenged to find a special spot that lets you observe something important here. There's these little crafted structures, markers, that point you in a direction away from the totem. Follow that to the next marker, which points you another way, follow that, and eventually it leads you around a path where you eventually reach the observation spot. A special event will follow, and you'll get some clan favor with your very own clan instead of others. At first, you'll need to find 3 of these totems before you get your first main reward. A hidden but good side event. I like the execution on this. But overall, exploring is very worth it. Not only can you find skill point rewarding plants to interact with, the Tarsu plants, but you can also find other events like these moths that lead you to a hidden, super rare plant. On top of that, you can even find the literal permanent health increasing plants called bell sprigs. The first one I found was within a hollowed out tree to the west of the home tree, but if there's any interesting looking location, plant, tree, a cave, go explore it. There's every chance you'll find something really useful there, even permanent upgrades. This is great because it's going to encourage you to explore generally, but if you want help, you can always open the map and look for any purple beacons. These are indicators of a special event in that area, so don't miss them. But there you have it. That's my pile of important and hopefully very useful things to know in your early days of play. If you guys have any extra details or tips to help other new players, then you can drop them in the comments. But for now, I've been Hollow, you've been you, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.